You wake up early to just prepare yourself well for this interview
Well,
and going into slumber
it's not
mode
particularly,
afterwards.
it's not particularly early. It's 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I do have, let me check. I mean, yeah, I would love you to think that you're special, but it's not quite right
Okay.
because I have another two podcasts and two networking meetings tonight today.
I'm sorry that I'm disappointing you already, Erin.
Why? Not being special. It's me who is disappointing you. You're fine.
Oh, okay. Fine. There we go. So, whereabout are you from? You're in the UK, right?
Yeah.
Whereabout?
Cheshire.
Okay. Okay. That's.
It's a bit closer to Manchester.
You can hear from the accent. Born and raised?
Oh, no.
Not
No,
whereabout?
but I don't really talk about it. I mean, I can tell you, but it's not the story that
It's not recording.
contributes to my messages. Yeah, I'm from Moscow.
Okay. Moscow. Really? That's very
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. And how long have you been in the UK?
Oh, on and off. I've been living for 15 years in London. Then I decided to run away from myself.
Okay.
Made a feeble attempt, in the hope that it's gonna change my life. I moved to France. It didn't change my life. Actually, I went through the period of spiritual awakening instead. This is why I moved to France, as I know now. And then when the spiritual awakening was over, I moved to Moscow because I was out of job and I was living with my mom until the moment the war started. Then obviously I fled the country and moved back to the UK because I
Oh.
have dual citizenship. So yeah.
Okay, so you are officially more interesting than me. That's why today will be all about you. Then, I've been out of the country simply for traveling, but I lived in the USA, and that's about it. But other than that,
Yeah,
okay.
I reckon from the time difference and accent that you're in Australia.
No, actually not. South African. So
South Africa.
I get the confusion. So currently we're only 2 hours behind or in front of. It's 12 here. So we basically
I
the
see.
same
Yeah.
timeline. But I do get that a lot of people, unless they have a lot of South African friends, they do confuse the language barrier sometimes. Yep, or
You,
the
you
accent.
see, that actually quite interesting because I used to work for the company and I had quite a lot of South African guys. I don't know,
Okay.
somehow they all were sent, here.
Mm.
And for me, before your accent would have been South African, but now with podcasts, it's the first time that I'm communicating with Australians
Okay.
and I'm getting confused.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's the same language. Well, it's just, yeah, I get what you're saying. So yeah, interesting enough, there's a lot of South Africans in the UK. Like that's very popular. Actually, Australia
Yeah.
as well, but South Africans go to the UK a lot. Some of our closest friends they live in the UK as well. I've never been there in the UK itself. Obviously, I've been to Ireland and a couple of places, and never been to Russia. Is it something that
Right.
you would actually recommend visiting Russia? Still off the
Probably
record.
not.
Not.
Probably not now.
Yeah, of
Uh,
course.
you know. So basically, for as long as Putin is there, definitely don't even get any closer to the country,
Mm-hmm.
because even though I don't have Russian passport and my mom is in Moscow, there's no fucking way
Mm.
I'm gonna risk it, because I don't know, they're crazy. So no, not now.
Mm.
Definitely.
You said your mom is still there.
Um, yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Okay, and how does that feel? I mean, you saying cross the country is like obviously do you need to be concerned? Are you worried?
I'm not, well, I'm worried that I may not see her anytime soon. And as you can imagine, she's
Mm.
not a spring chicken.
Mm.
So that's scary because I don't know when I'm going to be able to be back. And with traveling, it's also now complicated because there's not that many direct flights left to her. So that's an issue. Before it was easier because I could go there anytime and I was paying for our holiday, so we were meeting twice a year, every year for holiday. This is how we spend it together.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's denied as an option.
Well, sorry to hear that, and I really hope and trust that your obviously it's things out of your control, but that the cards will count in your favor. And yeah, I mean, it's I can only imagine, or I can't imagine, but I can imagine the scenario of how this can really just put stress and worry. Do you have kids of your own?
No.
Not. Okay. Great. Well, okay, Erin. Welcome to this. Uh, don't worry at all. We'll take what we can from this. So
I thought we are going to have somebody else because, the script that you sent me, it felt like, you've been asked
I'm the other
questions
person.
too.
I'm the other person. So I'm not only
Oh, multitasking.
so
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not only a I do podcasts for a hobby. I'm a business developer. So I work with leadership development in organizations. So I use this content just to create to basically to teach young entrepreneurs, young business owners, about interesting topics. So it's not like I'm the host interviewing two people to get on. I'm interested in topics that I understand, and or at least that I can learn from other people as well in
Right.
the world. So
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
yeah, that's about it. And afterwards, as I said, well, once we have the content, I'm going to send it to you. And if there's anything, like if you say, listen, we should remove this or add this, or maybe it doesn't matter. Like we super chilled with
Mm,
that.
I'm not going to do that. Don't
Okay,
worry.
but in any case, it's our process. We want our guests to always feel safe and everything like that. And what else did I want to say? Oh, after this interview, if you can just keep your browser open
Mhm.
of Riverside, so it
Until it
uploads.
uploads.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, Riverside is great, but it's also not that great. It's also sometimes it does have its challenges. That yeah, sometimes the audio is just horrible, and it's so much editing that needs to go on. So I'm going to hit record. I'm going to lead us in. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yay!
let's yay. There we go. Let's see. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, and welcome back to the show. It's another episode of Not Yet Mature. And as you guys know, something that's very close to my heart is leadership development, right? I love working with leaders and sustainable leadership and just overall to develop that within organizations. And today I'm super privileged, but I've got to, before I introduce my guest, and you can already see on the screen, and so I've got a slight confession to make. So I was sitting and going on a couple of networking sites like Matchmaker.fm, LinkedIn, a couple of things, and I thought to myself, I really want to talk about sustainable leadership. And there's a couple of guests I had in mind, and as I sat there, I thought to myself, how boring will this interview be? Right? Because these people are all whatever. They're just so they got something to say, but how boring will this be? And I thought to myself, the purpose of leadership and great leadership is to kind of be different, right? To kind of just stand out from other people. And I went through listen, and use filtering options, and then I got onto a profile. And I'm going to read you the profile, right? So obviously you wrote it, but I'm going to read you. It says the following. It says, "Hiya, I'm Erin Andrea Craske, a natural-born rebel with a unique blend of three distinct and statistically rare personalities. I'm intensely analytical, logical, and relational, while also deeply spiritual and fiercely authentic. A true example of raw individuality. I thrive on defying the status quo and challenging authority, which often makes me a misfit in the corporate world. But ironically, this continues to the following. I've been fortunate enough to spend the last 20 years deep diving into the world of strategy and leadership in various industries. I've built over 40 top-notch brands across different sectors and companies such as L'Oreal, British American Tobacco, SSL, Mars, etc. My passion lies in strategic development, building self-selling brand, personal growth, and authentic leadership. That's using the word authentic leadership twice. Now, just before I give the floor to you, when I read that, I thought to myself, this is a person that I want to know how do you train leaders? What's the cause and effect thereof? Because I don't know if it's because of the word authentic, but whether you use the word or not, I would have been, oh my goodness, this person is true to herself. And when I thought about it, when I look at sustainable leadership, for me, sustainable leadership is all about serving beyond and over the product or service offering, right? Going beyond that, continuous growth of employees and members and their wealth, all their wealth. And in order to sustain, you need to feel purpose and a sense of belonging, over motivation. And all of that actually needs authenticity. So please tell me, how on earth do you manage to find to just inspire authenticity within leadership? And how do you see authentic leadership kind of like attributing to sustainable leadership, if that makes sense? And welcome. That's me for now. That's to you.
Okay, right. Well, right. I don't even know where to start. The first thing, thank you very much for inviting me and for having me here. Secondly, well, to tell you the truth, the copy that you read with so much passion and appreciation that, I feel like, my name is growing, my wings, I can't say, angel wings, just there. Um, the problem is that the copy is a marketing copy
Wow.
to cut through the crowd, right? So to provoke and stop you and to kind of, yeah, just to add a little bit differentiation to what other people write. It doesn't mean I know what they write, but I would presume that, if I write something more provocative, it's going to be more interesting. So it's not how I position myself. It's a marketing copy. So
But I need to
just
add
for the
there, like
record,
clearly when I met you for the first time, I could relate. I could see that that copy was different and your personality is quite different, right? So I get what you're saying, but the two relates with one another.
yeah, okay, yeah, but I was saying
Okay.
it's not that I'm promoting myself here. Right. So, with regards to authentic leadership and sustainable leadership, sustainable leadership is the first time I hear about. Uh, it's maybe so many different types of leadership that I kind of lost track some point. Some time ago. With regard to authentic leadership, it is about, I guess, the overall perception. It is about being true to your values. It's about being true to who you are, and but okay, I don't even know, kind of. You disturbed me, with your introduction. Just while trying to
Back to you.
recollect all my thinking. Um, so the argument that I would put forward is that, when you have toxic leaders
Hmm.
that actually don't do much justice to the company, they actually are also true to their
Yep.
values.
That's the point that I also wanted to raise. Yep. Glad you're on that.
Yeah, so that's why authenticity, it's not being true to your values is not enough definition. So what also happens that authentic leadership is also characterized by integrity and empathy and contribution. So it goes slightly beyond just definition of value for the reason that I mentioned earlier. But, and this is quite interesting thing because I always thought about myself that I'm authentic or I was authentic
Hmm.
because as a rebel, as we know now, actually authenticity comes easy because you are destined, you are meant to go against the current, right? And as soon as you accept this role or who you are, because it does take time to accept that you're not supposed to be like everybody, you don't blend in,
Yep.
authenticity comes easy. So from this perspective, I thought that I was authentic unless it was the time that I went through the period of personal transformation and I learned for myself that what I thought of myself, of who I was, actually wasn't who I was.
Hmm. And why
I
do you
don't know
think
if
that
it
the
makes
reason
it.
is? Like, do you think for a moment that people think being true to yourself is putting kind of up a facade just to not deal with realism or the current
No,
world? No.
that's the problem.
Mm.
People don't realize. Unfortunately, we're not taught this way. We don't know how life happens. that through our life we acquire different things that don't serve us, but they shape our self concept. They shape our self perception. They also shape the perception of the world and people around us. So when we pile it all on, we become a certain entity, I don't, for use of a better word,
Mm-hmm.
that we think this is who we are. But in reality, half of it is what we acquired and it not inherent to who we were meant to be. So, and this is what I realized after the transformation when I shed everything that didn't serve me, everything that I thought is correct, everything I thought is truth about myself or about anybody else around me. I realized that underneath I'm even better
Mm-hmm.
than I thought I was. And this truth is actually it's applicable to every human being because we all go through exactly the same period of getting older, of getting more mature, and our parental conditioning, societal conditioning, school conditioning, all of that shapes ourselves and our perception. So when you get rid of it, you will become the person that you were born to be. And it's much more pure and it's much more confident and it's much more powerful than we think we are. This is what I'm saying while
Mm-hmm.
talking about authenticity. You can be authentic to your self perception, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're authentic to your true self.
Okay, that makes sense. So, how do you explore or kind of like tap into that authentic self awareness or authentic self? How do you start that journey? How do you wake up one morning and say, you know what, I want to be true to myself, a more authentic leadership, authentic person. Before you lead, you need to be authentic self, right? That's our goal. And
Yeah.
where do you start? So you made that decision. How do you explore into that?
Well, it really depends because in my case, it wasn't a conscious decision. It's something that happened to me
Mm-hmm.
without going into much detail. So you go through the period of everything that used to shape you, your self concept. You had certain crutches that were necessary for you to describe yourself, to describe your role, describe your identity.
Yeah.
That external. So when these external things are removed and you have no longer crutches, to hold on to, then you're kind of being stripped naked and your identity is dissolved
Mm-hmm.
because the definition that you created of yourself depended on external perception, of who you are according to whatever expectations you saw people, had about you. When it's all gone, then you become your authentic self because you can't define yourself. And this is why I was saying to you earlier that this definition that you read, it was for promotional
Yeah.
purposes. If you ask me how I will define myself in a day-to-day conversation, I'll tell you I am that I am.
Mm.
I can't define myself because any definition gonna come with a perception. I'm going to have one perception of the definition, you're going to have another perception of a definition, and any definition going to immediately put you into a box, into a role.
Okay.
So if you don't want to be boxed in, don't define yourself.
Okay.
So, and when it comes to other people, that is just the process of stripping off all these beliefs and expectations and judgments, that we acquire, those that don't serve us,
Yep.
and that will help you to get to your natural self, to your core, as much as it's possible, right? And from this place, you already can look at your values, you can look at your meaning of why you're here, because it's massively important for many different reasons, including mental health. So, because from your real self, your values may change.
Okay.
you know
Yeah.
Many things gonna be different because they're not any longer shaped by your mental perception.
Mm. So this is you mentioned something now, and we're not going to go in detail at all. And I don't mean this at disrespect, but something happened, and you can pick up that obviously it wasn't something great, and it was kind of like traumatizing, or it was a negative thing that happened, and that allowed you to be shaped into kind of like this authenticity. Let's call it the strip naked effect, right? It strips you naked where you get to the point where you have the decision, what, who am I? Just back to that point, to adopt kind of like this authenticity. So my question to you is it, and I'm careful about my words because a lot of people can take offense to that, but is it then
I don't
needed?
get offended.
Is it needed to have a traumatic or negative effect or experience or a hardship experience in your life to get to that strip naked point, whereas you can get to the point of being more authentic to yourself? Does it make sense? Does my question make sense?
Yeah, it's an absolutely perfect question because I believe that if somebody is interested in this topic, they would be interested to know more about how
Mm,
they can get there. Okay, so my experience wasn't that traumatic. It was challenging,
mm,
and in other ways called awakening.
mm-hmm.
I just don't talk about it because some people may freak out,
Yeah,
you know.
of course.
But yeah, so awakening is challenging. It takes many years, it takes different stages when you're moving to a different level of consciousness. That's actually what happens. Uh, but I know that many people actually they change their perception of themselves and the world and what is important in our lives through traumatic
Okay.
experiences. You know, so um, it really, I guess, depends on the person because everybody's gonna have a different path, a different destiny. They have to fulfill. What I do, again, because I'm not a spiritual coach, right? So I
Yep.
don't believe I'm in a position to facilitate any type of awakening. And I definitely don't want anybody to experience such traumatic events that, that kind of, they make us better, but they're really challenging to go through.
Yep.
So what I do under my kind of guidance and supervision, I help clients to get rid of what shapes them
Mm-hmm.
in the wrong way of everything that they feel is not correct, is not right. But I do it very gently
Yeah.
because I know I've been through it. I know how to make it, how move clients through the process in a way that they feel comfortable.
But now, interesting
Because
enough.
change is
Yep.
a wait,
So,
wait a second. Just because you know that from your experience that change is uncomfortable,
yep.
by it doesn't really matter whether it's massive or it's tiny. Not everybody is ready for that. So if somebody is ready to change or to undergo, a changing process, I believe that I must make it as comfortable for a person as possible.
Okay.
Because
Yep.
it's already celebrating enough, that somebody makes the first step.
Mm.
So my role is not to scare them away.
I'm glad you mentioned that somebody take the first step. So, if we look at your clients, when a client approaches you, I guess it's safe to assume that they at the part where they need or feel that they want to change in some form or other. Um, why? I mean, did they get to the point where they stuffed up in their personal life or work capacity or just completely stressed? Like once again, like if clients approach you, it's I presume, is it from a business point of view? Is it from a life point of view rather, and it affects their business? Like from what point of view do they get to the point where they say, I need to speak to Erin, I need to make change because of XYZ that happened? Like, what are you experiencing that?
Yes, actually, they come usually with business issues, but
Mm-hmm.
there's one very interesting thing that I don't believe people realize. So when you have a systemic issue is usually manifests in different symptoms,
Yeah.
various
Yeah.
symptoms, right? So what usually clients come to me with, it's a symptom. So, for example, I don't know, I wanted to increase my team's productivity,
Mm.
something like that, very
Yes.
superficial,
Yeah.
right? But then the question is, and what's behind this lack of productivity?
Mm.
And you start asking, one question after another, and then you appear to be in the core of your client
Wow.
because he is lacking self confidence, right? He's not quite secure about his position of being a leader. So he needs to control. Because he needs to control, he gives either more job or an appropriate job, and then he starts managing. And the team is not enjoying the process. So the productivity and morale goes down because productivity is a result of poor morale. It's
Yep.
right. So and then we have an option. So either we can work on the team productivity, or we can work on management style
Yep.
separately, or we can separately work on controlling issues. We can separately work on stress issues, because obviously, it all goes hand in hand with stress and burnout and
Yep.
dissatisfaction. Or we can go into the core and see what we can change here, so all the symptoms are going to disappear or at least diminish by themselves.
Mm.
So we can have coaching, till cows come home,
Yeah.
endlessly, moving from one symptom to another, or we can go through one program, fixed. I don't like the word fixed, but it
Yeah. Yeah.
really kind of explains what it does. And then, let alone these symptoms gonna be fixed, but also relationship within family,
Mm.
with other people, because it all comes from the same person.
Yes.
And
Yes.
this is what
Yes.
happens. Yeah, this is
It's
how it
it's
works.
it's super interesting that you mention all of these things. In conclusion, not to the show, but in the when
Sounds
I
like sign of relief. We
bye.
can go now.
When I did the notes and journey of points that we want to talk about, the concluding factor that I wanted to discuss was for sustainable leadership and for great leadership is authenticity important, is it viable? And I'm so glad you mentioned it at this point, because let me put it this way, right? The problem with non-sustainable leadership is that people in leadership, because of their education and climbing the hierarchy or climbing the ranks, it's not because they need to, they don't have a natural calling of leadership. It was just the next big promotion and they there, right? Those are usually the people.
Me.
Yeah, those are usually the people that chasing this superficial things that you mentioned. And when we walk into a company and we talk to how to sustain leadership, that's the first thing that we look at. Like, you're not a natural born leader. You're great at your job. You're a natural born worker, perhaps, but at the end of the day, you're chasing things that is in the finite space. It's not in the infinite space of leading people, developing people, sustaining this leadership. And now you mentioned it already. It starts with those people are chasing the superficial things, meaning they're not true to themselves. And another point that you mentioned, I'm so glad you mentioned it, is in my opening line when I said, as this, to sustain, to create sustainable leadership, one needs to give people purpose and yourself purpose as well. Purpose is the only thing that's long term. If you look at old people, old people, if they if fine even if they retire financially wealthy, right? Because
Hmm.
that's the first thing that people say is you need to retire financially wealthy. And granted, let's say they retire financially wealthy, but they don't have a job. So in other words, they don't need to wake up the morning to go and serve or do. And especially if their kids make it in the world and they go and visit their kids, kids don't need them to feed them anymore. Their kids don't need them for money, for education, for nothing.
Hmm.
Those people, they've got all the riches in the world, and you just see they don't have purpose in life anymore, and their health just goes backward and backward and backward and backward and backward and backward and backward because of purpose. And in companies, we see exactly the same thing. Is if someone doesn't have purpose in what they do, um, you can motivate them by giving them more money. Money short term, right? It's important. Like, pay people what they're worth. I'm not saying don't pay people, but what they're worth. But they're not staying there for the motivation. Let me give you an
Hmm.
example. You can have a massive good salary, so your motivation's high. If you don't have purpose, you're going to look for another company that offers the same or more, or another company can go to you and just snatch you. And in the reverse scenario, an employee that has an amazing sense of purpose in the company,
Hmm.
during tribulations and difficult times in that company where the employer cannot pay the employee, that's usually when the employee says, you know what, I can bear with you with this one. I'm not just going to walk out the door, because they've got that sense of purpose. Now, purpose, how to get purpose, and that's what you mentioned. That's a point that I want to make. One of the biggest things in purpose is to add to people's wealth and add to your own wealth. And the problem is with non-sustainable leaders is they think wealth only in money. But you mentioned now something very important is, you've got a theme in your life that what you showed work carries through in your life. So there's different wealth. There's your family wealth. How's your relationship with your family? There's your social wealth. How's your relationship with your friends? There's your spiritual wealth. Like, are you getting your spiritual wealth there's your physical wealth? Are you training to exercise or anything like that? And I see a good leader developing that in his own life, but also developing that in his team. Do they make space for their team? Like, are they asking, Erin, how's your mother doing? How's your cousin doing? How's this going? And truly caring for that. And that's why I love your answer, because I never thought about it. Like, authenticity, I always thought came natural with sustainable leaders, but apparently it doesn't. But it's such a crucial point to sustain leadership especially when it comes to purpose. So my next question that I really want you to understand or answer is, how can leaders then balance authenticity and professionalism? Because sometimes people look at, and I mean, you the perfect example for this, because after this, I want to explore your corporate career or things like that. But usually people look at the authentic people and think they lack professionalism, which clearly is not the status quo. It's not the truth. But from your experience, does the world still see authentic people to not be professional? And in a professional manner, let's say in a business or organization, how do you balance authenticity with professionalism?
Oh, wow. There's so many things in this question, because my first question would be back to the person,
Yep.
whoever you're talking about. How would this person define professionalism?
Okay, so let's get practical with that. So let's take some of your marketing companies that you mentioned in your intro.
Yeah.
Some famous companies that every listener can relate to because you know their products. So when you worked
Hmm.
with their leaders, how did their journey on authenticity, how did that impact their professionalism in any way? And if so,
That is, well, I don't
give
even
us
know
the
what to
dirty
say.
scoop.
You know what? The thing is that not everybody wants to be authentic, and not every company requires you to be authentic.
Mm.
So from my experience, well, first of all, with regards to balance, that is something that I really can't get, because when you say how do people balance authenticity and professionalism, it's assumed that they're opposite entities. It's either or, and how you're supposed to balance it. It's like another favorite question: how would you balance profit and purpose? So why are supposed to be separate? Why they can't be together? So it's the same question: why authentic person can't be professional, or professional person can't be authentic.
Mm.
They're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
So that's something that I really, this is why I can't answer this question,
Yeah, yeah.
because
But I mean,
whatever
you
in
answering it actually very
in the
great.
head in the head of one person who considers that they can't coexist. So then my question would be, okay, please define professionalism. How you see it. So if you see somebody that is angry, shouting, controlling, insecure, as professional, because you can't see softer, empathetic person with integrity and values and listening and creating trust as professional, the issue is definitely with whatever you have in your head, right? And unless you want to change what you have in your head, there's
Yep.
nothing I can do about it. Neither I want to do anything. It's the way you choose to live. So from this perspective, I don't believe that it requires any balance. And again, looking at the organizations, it doesn't really often require to be authentic, you know, because it's very seldom actually about people beyond shareholders.
Yep.
Those are important, but anything beyond it, because there's a perception that actually you give to people instead of realizing that people give to you, and this is why your business exists.
Yep.
So authenticity is not required.
Okay.
That's going to be my answer. And
Great.
when we talk, because I said it was about me earlier. When we talk about different
Yeah.
about people that were not kind of probably born to be leaders. So I am born to be a leader. It's simply, apparently, rebels are very good leaders.
Yeah.
But the difference is that I never wanted to have power.
Mm-hmm.
And that's maybe the difference. Because some people, they're not born to be leaders, but they want power. And there are other people that are born but don't need this power.
Yep.
And how would you define the leader from this perspective?
Well, I know how I would do it, but how would you do it?
I believe now, because I've never been asked this question, it's a very good question to
Mm.
think about. I believe that I would define a leader, the person who inspires
Mm.
and who creates an ambiance where people want to follow.
Yep.
They want to do it because it comes from their hearts.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about power, it's
Mm-mm.
about doing something together that makes sense
Yep.
to the group of people, not only to one individual. This person is a leader. And many companies, or good company, oh, okay, not good.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would define them.
yeah.
I would define them as companies that I would prefer, to work with on
Mm-hmm.
a permanent basis, like, throughout years. Uh, that where leaders don't exercise power, it's not necessary
Yep.
because you have a team and you actually get pleasure from seeing your people trusting you, from seeing your people following you, for seeing your people being comfortable and delivering for your organization just because they enjoy it. I mean, can it be any better joy for a business owner,
Mm.
to see dedication of the team members to something that is a shared goal?
Yep.
I believe that it's much more actually, inspirational, and it's much more comforting to be in this position than try to control, and deny individuality,
Wow.
deny trust.
Well done. That's brilliant. Well, you never heard the question before, and now you've got an answer for it, or now you see it. I definitely do agree. For me, it's if I look at a leader, or someone that should be a leader, it's I think I mentioned it, but it's two things that needs to be, well, a couple of things, but two main things that needs to exist within that person at the same time. The first thing is servitude. Someone that is able and naturally willing to serve those around him and serve his clients, serve his business, and serve his audience, everything. It's about them, it's not about me. How can I help? What can I do to assist the others? And then with that is someone that naturally, and they can still lack a lot of skills. They don't need to have all the skills. They don't need to be a great communicator. They don't need to be X,
Absolutely,
Y, Z. They don't need to
absolutely,
do that. But with that,
100%.
it needs to be someone that plants the sense of when others are around you, they feel that they're valued and they've got purpose. Um, that for me is a leader. And you can see that. You can see that in companies and in rooms when there's a person and someone naturally assumes it's the person with the biggest title or the biggest, up in the company, which is the two of us agree very well the whole time on that. That's not what defines a leader. But at the end of the day, you can clearly see when there's someone willing to put themselves last and the task and the people around them above them. And just, when people talk about that person, they feel better about themselves. They're not uplifting. I'm not saying, yeah, Erin's is great, Erin's is great. I'm saying Deon feels great when I'm around Erin. Deon has purpose when I'm around Erin. That for me defines leadership. That's the core of leadership.
I totally, I couldn't agree more.
Mm. So let's shift a bit to when you walk into a company, especially a company at early stages, right? Do you reckon or started realizing there's a theme of basic, continuous things that startups or early stage companies do wrong all the time? That you would say, listen, yeah, this is what I see. This is basically how we fix it, and this is what you need to stay clear of, like in your expertise.
Absolutely. And there's so many patterns, and they're all kind of repeating each other from one company to another.
Really.
It's incredible, but I think I can understand it in a certain way. So I would believe that the first reason behind so many mistakes and being similar mistakes is that we have low barrier to entry. Anybody and everybody can be a business owner
Mm,
or a founder,
mm,
and low barrier to entry doesn't necessitate having business knowledge or
sure.
technical knowledge, or at least foundation to start with. So that's one thing. And then the companies. And another thing is, not many people have actually growth mindset. Most of them are fixed minded. And these people come from the impression or perception that they know better, my product is the best, I know that because I'm the owner, blah, blah, blah. So it's not about accepting that you may not know something, providing that you don't even have this, business knowledge foundation I was referring to, the previous point. But also, you may be in a situation that, okay, I don't know anything, but I think I do, so let's stop here. And then when shit hits the fan
Mm-hmm.
and you start looking for what you can make better, what you're going to go where? Internet, gurus,
Yeah.
sources, information, and what you will notice. That is, I mean, because now I understand the pattern since I'm on podcasts. How to's.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to have a how to. How to are tactical. Nobody asks why.
Oh,
Nobody explains why.
there we go.
Because why is strategy, how to is tactic.
Mm,
So when you have no foundation for strategy, when you don't understand the direction your business takes, you don't understand the situation, you don't understand how to manage your resources or your activities or anything that would be strategic.
yeah.
So, which means that point by point you don't understand how to manage your resources, how can you manage business? How can you manage business? You start doing firefighting, you start changing directions, you start moving your teams to a burnout, you are stressed, it's trial and error. All you care about is how to spend money just to get a bit of money back
Yep.
because, oh my God, that's about return on investment. You know, the fact that they don't contribute, to the destination, to the strategy, to the profitability. Return on investment doesn't contribute to the profitability. They're totally
Yep.
different beasts, and we need to realize that. So when this happens, from this constant changing of directions and waste of resources, this is when businesses fail. This is why teams burn out, and this is all the consequences, that we talk about at length.
Yeah.
And we still offer how to's, and we still go through. It's like this leadership podcast, how to become a better leader.
Yep.
Did it really help to change the world of leadership? I
N-
don't think so.
no.
Because over a few years, we'll all say exactly the same. It's not working. It's not. So how to's won't work without why, and why won't work without us being willing to be self-aware, accept that we don't know something, and be ready to change.
Well, I absolutely love that, and I'm a huge advocate of asking why.
Think.
Whenever I walk into a company and we talk processes and everything that's in place, my question is always like, have you considered the why? Because you need to tell me why this is in place in the first time. Otherwise, I can guarantee whether it's working or not, it's there for the wrong reason. But now I want to ask you this in your opinion. So I 100% agree with you. I think a lot of company founders and startups, but let's go back 20, 30, can't even remember, X amount of years back when Google just started, right? When the idea just launched out of their garage, what was the first thing that they did? The first thing that they did is they hired a CEO to run the company because they knew that it's not about the pride, it's not about them. They have this product. They've got no idea how to run a company. And in today's world, it's obviously we don't even need to explore why. It's pride. People want to be the founder and CEO of everything. They want it easy
It's
and
not pride, it's status.
yeah. Yeah, that's true. And at the end of the day, that's why I think it's, well, not why, but that's definitely one of the contributive facts why 99% of startups fail. I know that's not exact figure. That's kind of just more the saying is because of everyone wants to run their own company. That's the one part. But this is my question to you is, I agree. It's not about the money. It's not about the it shouldn't be on the ROI at the end of the day. But do you think that people or startups, new companies, early stage companies, they are in the position that they feel, and whether true or not, that they need to scale so fast, otherwise they'll be obsolete tomorrow. So they want to scale faster than the organic rate, if we want to put it like that. And to scale faster than organic rate means you need funding, right? You need money to do so because if I want to just organically scale, I need to sell more products organically. So if I want to speed up that process, I need new funding. So do you think that pressure of why startups and early stage companies, make this fundamental mistakes of just chasing the ROI, do you think this pressure comes actually from investors and banks and venture capitalists pouring money in and say, listen here, we need a return on investment. So they're
Yeah,
kind of putting
as
that
well.
leader in the corner and saying, your management style doesn't affect us, it doesn't bother us, and they lose focus on why they did it in the first place. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
what do you think?
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely.
okay. So, authentic.
There's a
Yep.
lot because I work with businesses, positive impact driven businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one thing that, society, they can proclaim anything and everything. Yes, we all want to grow, but even when we talk about all this restorative, sustainable, social, big core businesses and everything, everybody's saying that they're important, that they want to save the world. But in reality, societal conditions are put them in a situation that make their survival even more challenging than for standard business because cost of goods is more expensive, right? It's higher, so the prices are higher. The supply chain, value chain may not be as sustainable as they would like to be because, again, they are required to provide growth quicker, faster than they can, providing that they do have balance, profit and purpose, or basically that it will be shaped together. So you have additional things that you need to consider. And that's exactly the point that you made. Yes, it may be that some companies would like to be better and grow
Yep.
organically or take their time, but yeah, they put under pressure of immediate earnings. It's like instant gratification that is so fashionable at the moment.
I totally agree with you on that. So, as we bring the show to an end,
Already?
are we 45 minutes is my cap on where we can add. We're
Oh,
already at
we just only
48.
started.
Well, 41. No, we're going to continue a lot. Don't you worry. I'm going to tap into your brain a lot. I can promise you that. Um, Give us some pointers. You walk into a company, especially early stage companies, like what are the things people should focus on from your experience, what you've seen? If you were to say to a new founder of a company, even if it's like quit, get someone else to do your job, what will be the pointers? What's Erin's go to pointers to say, guys, girls, this is what you should do. This is what you should focus on when it comes to your leadership style, when it comes to your authenticity, when it comes to your company processes. Like from your experience, what does one need to focus on?
I do have a profitability model.
Mm.
You know, it's a very, I guess, easy solution. Areas of the business to pay attention to naturally on a daily basis, quietly, peacefully, a little by little, improving. Every stream that leads to profitability in a way that it's not about striving, it's not about being stressed, but it's about growing your business and profitability holistically. So that covers different areas, but I believe that the first one, apart from foundation has to be absolutely, because business won't survive without, but strategy
Yep.
is the first thing to consider. Fix the strategy, and then you can look at other streams But if you really don't know where you go, then how can you build it? You
Wow.
need to know where you go. And there's one thing that I always say, because I think it's a fantastic comparison, that nobody questions the need for a strategy in a war,
Wow.
while everybody, think that strategy is redundant in business, where there is a fight for every share point.
Yep. Wow. I mean, that's a quote of the day. I need to give you that.
Thank
Well done. That's going to be on my T-shirt. I think from every show I take at least one quote
you.
that
Would you like me
inspires
to
me.
design it for you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're more than welcome to do so. You're more than welcome to do so. Okay, Erin. Lastly, please take this opportunity. Who should get in touch with you? Why they should, and how do they do that? But I'm going to give you the intro while you look at that. So if you're ready, ladies and gentlemen, wait. There we go. And let's give an applause there. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Erin. Go for it, Erin.
Right. So, who would like who? Well,
Who
nobody
needs
needs
to?
to. Nobody,
Okay.
nobody, because if I say that you need to, it will be my belief. It's not going to be your belief, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, whoever that is important. Whoever
Wow.
wants to improve their business profitability or leadership holistically, once and for all, they can contact me, and then we'll see whether we have chemistry, because coaching, as you know, it was about chemistry.
Yep.
The person needs to be, in this case I will say needs, I mean must be comfortable with the coach,
Wow.
because often coaching requires being honest, and you
We've got
must be.
so many mutual beliefs, the two of us, you won't even agree. As a business coach, I say the same thing. If you don't want to coach, or you don't, I always compare it with an athlete, right? Or someone that wants to lose weight. If a coach comes to you and tell you, let me coach you, you need to lose your weight, you're not going to buy in. But if you go from your own accord to a coach and say, I need coaching, huge difference. Sorry. Yeah, back to you. You
No,
just
no,
blow my mind,
that's
your wisdom.
exactly it. And this is why, and this is why I also don't like this idea, why should they choose you?
Mm.
No, they shouldn't choose me. They should choose a coach that they feel comfortable with.
Yep.
Irrelevant whether it's me or somebody else, when they believe it's the right moment for them to
Sure.
change,
Mm-hmm.
to improve, because we obviously talk only about positive change. We don't talk about any negative changes. So, and where they can find me under the show notes, so in the show notes, because underneath, you're going to have a paragraph with all the information.
Yep.
So you just
Okay.
feel like go and click on it.
We'll share your socials. Well, Erin, I want to thank you for today. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being in, and thank you for just being such an amazing guest on the show. We're gonna do a couple more shows together. Don't you worry about that. And yeah,
Thank you for
just
being such an amazing host.
thank you. Yeah, with you it was easy. It's the easiest thing ever. Um,
Likewise, with you it was easy. I reciprocate
okay,
totally.
Erin, I wish you all the best and have a good one.